Hi people, Morning away from Bashir again as always, and as usual. Yeah, this is going to be another astrology video. It's been a good while since I did one of those. It's simply something that came to mind that I'm going to implement in my article called The Importance of Astrology. In the importance of astrology and tarot, so divination and the occult. Again, for people that haven't read the article, you're more than welcome to check it out. It's linked in the description below. This video is linked to that article. It's going to be embedded in said article. Now, yeah, let's get down to it. I'm simply going to discuss specifically. I've already done a video called Astrology and Career. Wait for the end screen. Wait until the end screen for that one, I mean. But I'm specifically going to discuss astrology and professions, essentially professions and the zodiacal alignment, because most professions in the world have zodiacal and therefore planetary alignments, obviously. I'm sorry. Yeah, so yeah, let's just dive right into it. I just want to make this video as quickly as possible. Yeah, first one, Aries. Okay. Every profession where there is a good amount of danger present and that is done under essentially hazardous condition falls under the zodiac sign or is aligned with the zodiac sign Aries. Examples are working in the military, working in law enforcement, working for the fire department. These are all examples, okay? Several professions are also linked to other things. That's something that you need to keep in mind. For example, working in law enforcement is a mixture of Aries and Capricorn, but I'll get to that later on. But that's what you need to remember. These are examples, okay, of jobs or professions and what zodiac sign they belong to in a classical black and whitish fashion, or as black and white as possible. Next up is Taurus. Any work that deals with material goods, anything of a material nature, okay, and especially luxurious items and goods. Think of a diamond ring, think of a computer, think of a cell phone, especially like, for example, the latest and greatest and the most expensive ones. These all fall under Taurus. These are all aligned with the zodiac sign Taurus. Anything that you can buy with money and that generally speaking costs a lot of money and that is generally speaking beautifully refined is Taurus. Okay, especially goods that are refined or a mixture of Taurus and Libra. But this is an example. After Taurus follows Gemini, obviously. Anything that has to do with day-to-day dealings and just basic things like administration, signing contracts, going short distances. Imagine delivering mail, being a UPS driver or a delivery driver or similar. All of that, okay, falls under Gemini. It's of a day-to-day nature, signing contracts. Like I said, literally working in administration. I need to print out this, I need to make up this contract, I need to, I need to write this down, blah, blah, blah. That's all Gemini. Next up is Cancer. Cancer deals with real estate and with food. So anything that has to do with the real estate business, a realtor, someone that buys and sells houses, or a company that deals in the aforementioned buying and selling houses, properties, whether it be of a residential nature, corporate nature, anything you can think of. That's Cancer. So lunar essentially, since the moon rules Cancer, obviously. Also, like I said, food. Working in the restaurant industry, being a chef cook, being a chef's assistant, being a waiter, waitress, serving food, making food, anything that has to do with food, even a food processing plant, essentially, or a fast food joint, anything you can think of, McDonald's, KFC, Popeyes, they're all Cancer. Okay, they all align with Cancer at a base level. Leo has to do with sports and entertainment. So think of anything, okay, any sport in the world, football or soccer. Think of American football, the NFL, anything, baseball, anything, okay, is Leo domain. It's solar in nature. For the rest, also deals with entertainment. Think of how do I put this? Think of the entertainment industry, anything that essentially amuses or entertains people or gives them some sense of fulfillment, albeit only temporarily. creativity as well. Think of making music, making a movie. It just goes on. Of course, these two are a mixture of Leo and Aquarius. Okay, I'll get to Aquarius obviously later, but generally speaking, these are Leo affairs. They all have to do with being creative, essentially, creating a work of art, regardless of that work of art may be, and or like I said, the aforementioned sports. Now, next up is Virgo or Virgo. And Virgo deals with all things that have to do with work across the board. Everything and anything is work. What I'm doing right now also partially is work. Okay, it's a Virgo affair. And also being critical of others, essentially criticizing anybody in any way. A driver set instructor criticizing you, whether it be positively or negatively during your driving lessons or driving exam. That's a Virgo affair. Last but not least, also your physical health. Anything you go to the doctor for, anything, a minor, mild, or severe case of the flu, or a cold, or a fever, or anything like that, anything that can be possibly wrong with your physical body, that's Virgo, that's Virgo. Next up, Libra. Libra deals with associating with people at a tight level. Honestly, it's also what I do, up to a certain degree or extent. Okay, the majority of people I deal with, customers and whatnot, any person that essentially approaches me because they want something occult related or esoteric related, 9 out of 10 times I get to know these people in detail because my job is of such a nature, my occupation, who I am and what I do is of such a nature. I get to know everything, the most sensitive parts of their lives, things that they generally speaking would not share with anybody else, really sensitive stuff. So all of these things fall under Libra. Making anything better, okay, making anything more refined, essentially taking a raw product or surface and polishing it to the point where it's better than the original is also Libra. It stands for refinement. Remember what I said earlier. For example, taking something of a material nature like a computer and actually making it better by replacing components and making the software more faster and capable of handling more. All of that is a mixture of Taurus and Libra. That's also why, unsurprisingly, Venus rules both of them. So it's purely Venusian. That's why the effect is so strong. A psychologist, a psychiatrist, all of these things are Libra, or aligned with the zodiac sign Libra. Because a psychologist or a psychiatrist actually needs to get to know you, and especially the sensitive parts of your life. Like essentially, like also what I do, because what I do also falls under psychology in a certain context. And yeah, also the fashion industry, up to a certain degree. Fashion has to do with making you appear more beautiful or better than you actually are at a material level, making you more appealing, visually appealing, aesthetically attractive. For example, makeup falls under Libra because it has to do with physical beauty. That's a Libra-based affair. Anything, getting your hair done, anything that literally makes you seem better than you actually are, or makes you more beautiful, more handsome physically than you actually are, is Libra. Scorpio deals with anything that has to do with debt. Anything from an undertaker to a funeral processing company to a coroner. Anybody that is involved in dealing with you after you have passed away and you're dead, regarding your physical body or any other arrangements, is Scorpio. That's also why Scorpio also deals with necromancy. So even contacting the dead, any person that doesn't belong to the material world anymore up to a certain extent, in the classical material way, yeah, it's Scorpio. But the rest, it also deals with, like I've already discussed, I think in other videos, money from third parties. So anything, any financial institution you can think of, banks, payment processors, any person that works in these fields is a Scorpio-related affair, is a Scorpio worker essentially. Anything. Of course, like I said, there are mixtures, there are branches. For example, the technical department of a bank that essentially works in the background, no one sees them unless they're specifically mentioned by name and blah, 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 blah. They work in a closed room in general, and they're responsible for processing payments, incoming, outgoing, wire transfers, you name it. The people that work in that department, they essentially are Scorpio workers with a mixture of Aquarius, because Aquarius deals with technology, and also could be other miscellaneous zodiac signs, depends on the details of their profession. But at a base level, what they do is Scorpio in nature. Anything that you can think of, anything of such a nature, okay? Any financial institution, any institution that essentially receives money from other people and does their thing with it, you name it, goes about their responsibilities with it, even in a negative way, a loan shark, anyone, someone that's in debt of others is Scorpio. Sagittarius is up. Sagittarius deals with teaching, any teacher, from an elementary school teacher or a kindergarten teacher, all the way to a university teacher. Any person that teaches, that learns others, educates others in things, it doesn't matter whether it's in a negative way or a positive way or a neutral way, Sagittarius. Any person that works in tourism, also Sagittarius, because Sagittarius deals with that. It deals with tourism. So think of a tour guide, think of a nature wildlife preserve guide that essentially shows tourists, oh, look at a beautiful lion, look at a beautiful zebra. These are Sagittarian workers. Politicians, Sagittarian. Any person that works in long distance traveling, whether it's by air or by sea. So for example, an airline company, the stewardesses, the pilots, these are Sagittarian, depending on the situation. If it's a domestic flight only, then obviously we're talking about a mixture of Sagittarius and Gemini, or only Gemini. Depends purely. But generally speaking, yeah, it's Sagittarius. That's what Sagittarius deals with. Sagittarius also deals with large animals, essentially any animal that weighs over 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, so like 20 kilograms on average. That's Sagittarius, okay? A veterinarian that treats sheep, that treats farm animals, essentially, animals that are bred for husbandry purposes. Cows, horses, yeah, these are Sagittarian workers. I also earlier hypothetically forgot to mention Mercury, so Virgo deals with small animals. Think of pets, a hamster, a gerbil, a pet shop, for example, someone that works at a pet shop that sells parrots and hamsters and gerbils and shit. All of that, parakeets, yeah, all of that is Virgo in nature. That's a Virgo worker. Now, Capricorn, any person that's in charge of other people is Capricornian, is a Capricorn worker. The CEO of a company that hires and fires people, a judge that essentially handles out verdicts, issues verdicts to other people, any person that's in charge, okay? A police sergeant that essentially has 10 units or 10 other officers underneath him or beneath him, the police chief of a precinct, those are Capricornian workers. Everything, Capricorn. Any person that essentially is in charge of someone else is Capricorn. Aquarius deals with the public and with technology. Any person that works at a tech fair where they showcase the latest and greatest and newest innovations, the release of the newest iPhone, the release of the newest MacBook, the release of the newest laptop, the release of the newest car, essentially anything that has to do with technology, the release of the latest form of network connectivity system, so 5G or 6G or 7G, all of that. These are all Aquarian workers. People that work in public as well. Human resources. What was I going to say again for this? People that work in human resources, people that work in public affairs, all of these things are Aquarian affairs. Anybody that works in public, people that work at a concert venue, for example, a company that organizes concert-based venues, anything you can think of for a famous musician, any person, okay, that works in that field, that is involved somehow, for example, the person that tears up your ticket or similar, from a simple bodyguard at one of these events. These are Aquarian workers because what they do is deal with the public. For example, a football match in a football stadium is a mixture of Leo and Aquarius. Okay, the sport itself is Leo, belongs to the zodiac sign Leo, but everything surrounding it, the public, and all the arrangements that see to a successful stadium attendance in the way of how many people visit, and everybody that works in the background to see to it that everything goes well, even down to the ball boy, is literally an Aquarian worker. It falls under Aquarius. And last but not least, Pisces. Okay, Pisces honestly, arguably, is the most negative sign you can think of because, or let's just say, it belongs to the most negative. It hosts the most negative elements of society compared to the other signs. Essentially, the outliers of society, the ones that essentially quote unquote nobody else wants, the people or entities that that are at the bottom of society, essentially, the people that no one wants to be as, the homeless, junkies, drug addicts, deadbeats, lowlifes, losers, and everything else in between, they belong to Pisces. Okay, Pisces has to do with everything in the background, everything that isn't really visible, whether it's by choice, so deliberately, as in people don't want to see shit like that, or otherwise, has to do with Pisces. A prison guard, a prison warden, inmates, these are all Pisceans. These are all Piscean laborers, if you will. People that work in a psychiatric facility, a mental hospital, a psych ward, these are all Piscean in nature. People that work in any institution that treats or has to treat mental illnesses, think of a rehab clinic, a rehabilitation facility of any kind, okay? You can tell what all of these have in common. They have in common in the sense that they're not public, that the exact opposite. People generally speaking don't want to see or hear people like that because these people are seen as the anti-role models of society. No one wants to be like them, literally the opposite. Everybody shuns them and no one wants anything to do with them, like they're literally a piece of shit. Like their feces, you just ignore it. Yeah, like that. Again, the homeless, any person, someone that suffers from mental illness, mentally disturbed, blah 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 blah. All of those things are Piscean in nature, and as well as all of the institutions that accompany these, or that essentially host or treat these individuals. So, like I said earlier, psych wards, mental facilities. Even a homeless shelter is Piscean in nature. It's not public. Okay, a homeless shelter and people that work in it, these are Piscean workers. They essentially work with people whom no one else wants, and they need to deal with them, cope with them somehow. It just goes on. And these things aren't public. I mean, no one, unless something horrible happened, which is in that case the news is going to cover it. You know, no one is going to simply say, hey, I'm just going to go to the homeless shelter. It's so interesting. No one wants to see that. These are the unwanted elements of society that people have to deal with, okay, but don't want to deal with in general. They're not appealing in nature. Yeah, speaking of journalism, for example, journalism would be purely Gemini in nature because it purely has to do with communication, blah, 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 news report, etc. It just goes on. Writing stuff down, reading from a teleprompter, all of that stuff is Gemini in nature, okay? A news reporter that exclusively, for example, reports the news or reports news from a foreign source, so only from foreign countries and not from the person's own country of residence or similar, or the country the person comes from originally or stems from, is Sagittarian in nature. In some cases it can be a mixture. You know, the major news outlets that cover both domestic as well as international stories, it's a mixture of Gemini and Sagittarius. So yeah, there you go. I hope that it was clear, and I'll hear it if there is any feedback in the comment section. Bye bye.